Welcome back, bros. My name is Pewdiepie. Actually, no, it's Paul, but today I am going to be talking about Pewdiepie because he did a cool video where he attached his phone to his quadcopter in order to try and catch a Pokemon using his phone in the quadcopter. But before I say anything else, I want to say that I do love Pewdiepie. He's probably the best thing, in my opinion, to happen to YouTube. He's funny, engaging, and he makes high quality content on a daily basis. My intention with this video is not to have a go at my hero, the purpose is to educate. I think it's important that the many who will pick up a drone and use it will do so safely and without the risk to others and without putting themselves at risk of prosecution. It's only through responsible drone use that we keep everyone safe and ensure that drones can be a fun hobby for everyone to enjoy without it being clamped down upon by harsh laws, just because a few used them recklessly and carelessly, lost control of them and hit a person or an aircraft and forced the government to act. I've used the bare minimum of segments from the original footage just to provide commentary as allowed under fair use. Please check out the original, as usual, very funny and entertaining video by Pewdiepie. I've put the link in the description. So what does Pewdiepie do in the video? Well, he uses a drone with a camera and a phone attached to it to go out and catch Pokemon. That's that game where you've got to try and throw a little ball at Pokemon that appear on augmented reality on your phone screen. And sometimes they're kind of out of reach or hard to reach, so some people go out into the sea, or you can use a drone to try and get one. And he flies over a cricket field. He lives down in Brighton in England, and I checked it out, and it's actually the Sussex Cricket Club in Hove in Brighton in the UK, right at the very south coast. And he flies FPV from his bedroom. FPV means first person view, so that instead of looking up at the quadcopter necessarily to see where it's going to control it, you can see what the quadcopter sees because there's a little camera on board with a video transmitter, and that transmits to a little screen that you can see positioned on top of the thing he's holding in his hand. The little thing he's holding in his hand is actually the controller itself. Normally you still stand out in a field or on the road or somewhere like that when you're using that, but in Pewdiepie's case he does something strange, and he takes the whole controller with the FPV screen and he goes into his bedroom so that even if he wanted to, he can't actually see where the quadcopter is. He's also got GPS activated on it, so that technically if he lost the signal, then the quadcopter would just fly back itself into his house because it knows where the starting point is and where it is using GPS. And he takes off from his balcony and he lands on his balcony, and there's a cameraman beside him. And then once he's made the footage, he uploads it to a monetized account, so he's actually making money, probably tens of thousands of pounds, from his actual drone footage itself. I'll talk about why that's important later. So what are the UK laws on drone use? Well, it's governed by what's called the CAA, which is the Civil Aviation Authority, but it's enforced by the police. When they say civil, as in Civil Aviation Authority, it refers to civilian flight rather than military or commercial flight, but it's governed under criminal law using criminal penalties. So what is the UK law on drone use? Well, they state, and these are their words, that the person in charge of a small unmanned aircraft, like a drone or a small plane, may only fly the aircraft if they're reasonably satisfied that the flight can safely be made. So that means, for example, that okay, it may go okay, but if there's any potential problem, for example, what happens if he loses the signal that controls the drone from his hands, or in his case, what happens if he loses the video signal, and he's actually got no way of seeing where the drone is, or being able to control it, because you need to see it or see what it can see to control it. So technically he breaches that, I would say, quite definitely, because since he's in his bedroom, if he loses the signal, then he can't control it safely, so the flight can't safely be made. So that's offence 1, I would say. Next, the person in charge of a small unmanned aircraft must maintain direct, unaided visual contact with the aircraft, sufficient to monitor its flight path in relation to other aircraft, persons, vehicles, vessels and structures for the purposes of avoiding collision. What that basically means is that you have to be able to look at it as what's called line of sight. So you have to be able to see the quadcopter or plane at all times. And there was an exemption made to that because a lot of people fly FPV normally with a pair of goggles, although you can use a screen or a small LCD screen. In his case, that's what he's doing. I think he's got a little phone mounted to it. And the exemption stated that, okay, you won't have line of sight anymore if you're wearing a headset especially, but as long as there's what's called a buddy beside you, someone else who has got line of sight, then you'll be okay. Because if you think about it, if you're looking at the little screen, especially indoors, then you can't see that there's a big floodlight, for example in this case, or maybe a mobile phone mast or just a building to your left or right, because you're only looking straight forward if you're using the little screen. So for that reason you would have a buddy here that would say, watch out, you're about to hit something. And because he goes indoors and it appears that there's actually no one outside filming at that point, then he is in breach of that regulation. That's quite a serious one. Okay, he's not going to get a plane coming across him, but maybe, another quadcopter would show up, or he definitely wouldn't be able to see the pylons if they're just to his left. He moves left or backwards and he goes straight into the pylon, hits it, maybe falls down and maybe hits someone in the street beneath him. So that's quite a serious violation, and that is actually a criminal offence. The next part states that the person in charge of a small unmanned aircraft must not fly the aircraft for the purposes of aerial work except in accordance with a permission granted by the CAA, the Civil Aviation Authority. And what that means, aerial work, means that you're doing the flying of your quadcopter and filming or monitoring in order to get paid. And basically that means any kind of payment. So if you would say be working for a farmer and you're taking photographs of his land and then you sell him that service, or you're at a wedding and you're selling photos and use a quadcopter, you're not allowed to do that at all as a regular civilian unless you've passed all these tests and submitted all these forms. And they're quite severe, they're really, really hard to get. And it makes it great for people that do it as a business, but if you take your footage in order to make a YouTube video for which you're going to be paid, then that's called aerial work. So technically he is in breach of that regulation. That's a criminal offence, but the chances of him getting busted for it in this case are quite low, because they would need to go through and prove that he's making money from it on YouTube, and they're just not that big in it. I don't think they've touched anyone for doing that yet, so it's a criminal offence, but he's going to get off for that one. The next one says that the person in charge of a small unmanned surveillance aircraft, like he is using here, must not fly the aircraft, this is a very big point, over or within 150 meters of any congested area. And they define a congested area as being any area of a city, town or settlement which is substantially used for residential, industrial, commercial or recreational purposes. So that is 100% the area he's flying over here. So is he within 150 meters of it? Yeah, he's in it. So you could get away with that if you were in the middle of a big park in the middle of nowhere that almost no one ever used, say way out in the countryside, there wasn't even a farm or anything, and there was a town 150 meters beside you, or a building, but you stayed away from that, so you're not breaching that law. But that law is really targeted at people that live and are launching their drone or their plane from right in the middle of a city or a town, and then they're just flying all over. So like this video is a perfect example of a breach of that law, because he starts off in the city and then he flies over a recreational ground and then back over commercial properties. He flies over a road. You're not allowed at all to fly over roads. There's a road between him and the park. It's actually a cricket ground that he's gone over. And that's really important, and that's probably the most serious breach you can commit, because maybe a guy's out working on the cricket ground, you land your drone on him. People have been prosecuted for that. Someone flew a drone with a flag over a football match when the match was going on, and they found the guy and they prosecuted him. The most serious reason why that's the case is not for that kind of breach of the peace. It's because there are all these roads with people on them and people in cars, and what will happen could have easily happened here, is that he loses the signal. He can't see where the drone is because he's sitting in his bedroom. The drone has problems with the motors. That happens quite frequently. A propeller breaks. One propeller breaks, that thing falls out of the sky, it lands on the road, maybe in front of a car, maybe on a car windshield. The car swerves, hits a pedestrian, or it could land on the pedestrian. You know, it's a built-up area. Brighton's quite busy. Lands, hits someone, hits a child. That thing weighs about maybe 1.5 kilos. That lands from 100 meters on a child's head, kills the child, and that's why this law says you can't do that. So that's the most serious breach, I would say, and that's the one that he could be pulled up for here, and that's a criminal offence, and it's there for a reason. It looks like a big happy go out and catch some Pokemon thing here, but the moment that propeller breaks, or Pewdiepie loses sight of it because he's sitting in his bedroom flying it, which can easily produce a loss of signal. You can easily get a loss of signal if you're using it in a big built up area, because these things operate on 2.4 gigahertz for control. The 2.4 gigahertz is the same signal that's used for Wi-Fi, and even though you use a special technology to try and avoid any interference, you can get swamped by a lot of Wi-Fi signals or other signals in the area, or 5.8 gigahertz for the video control, and then you lose it, that thing falls out of the sky. Or even if it doesn't break, you know, what if he presses the wrong button? At one point you can actually see he's on the balcony, he puts the controller down, and then he walks back inside, so there's no one that can see the view from the drone. There's no one in control of the drone at all, apart from the drone trying to just hover there using maybe GPS. And he turns and goes back inside. So he's just got this drone that's flying in a congested area over a property that isn't his own, for which he hasn't got any permission, and he doesn't even have his hands in the controls. What if he reaches for the controls and the controls fall off the balcony, or you know, he doesn't get to the controls in time? That is a really serious breach, and he actually might get contacted about that, unfortunately. Don't do what he's doing. That's why I've made this video. I'm not trying to make fun of the guy or just have a go. I'm saying to you, the example he's giving is really irresponsible, and you definitely shouldn't do this type of thing. Okay, so don't copy him and follow these rules that I'm showing you here. Okay, and the last one is the person in charge of a small unmanned surveillance aircraft must not fly the aircraft within 50 meters of any vessel, vehicle or structure which is not under the control of the person in charge of the aircraft, or within 50 meters of any person. And there are also quite strict rules about if you've got a camera fitted, because not all of them have cameras fitted, or not all of them are recording. But if you record, for example, a person out in the street, you're not allowed to go and specially publicise that without that person's explicit permission. These are data protection laws in the UK, but relevant to this specific one here, he's broken all these laws. He's committed a criminal offence here, because you can clearly see that he flies within 50 meters of the structure. He doesn't own the rest of the building that he's in, and he's launched from that building, so he's obviously within 50 meters of it. He flies over the cricket ground, so he's easily within, you know, he's inside the 50 meter zone of that. He flies over the other vehicles, there'll be vehicles in the road beneath him. So in one go here, he's broken like every single part of this law, and that law is there to, you know, everything looks fine with this drone flight, but millions of times, most drone users will experience tons of failures. You know, the prop will break, it was a bit dodgy, the motor will burn out, the battery will die, you'll just lose control, you lose signal. And that's why that law is here. It looks perfectly happy in this instance, but what will happen in one of those instances that you've breached that law, it won't matter a thing if you're out in the middle of the countryside. You know, it'll fall to the ground and hit some mud. Maybe if you're unlucky, it'll hit a cow. But if you're in a congested area and there are people around, like the guy beside him here who's doing the filming, he's not necessarily in control of him all the time. There are people in the street, and that's what that law is here to protect people from. So he's breached about 5 criminal laws in this video. I'm not having a go at Pewdiepie. All I'm saying is that if you're watching his video, make sure that you don't follow his example. It's the same thing Casey Neistat is doing. He's showing this terrible example to all these people, and I'm not trying to spoil anyone's fun, but it will spoil everyone's fun, because people will see that, the Civil Aviation Authority will see that, the police will see it, and then other people will go out as well and copy what he's doing. And what will happen then is that the government will turn around and say, do you know what? you need to license all drones. That's what they've done in America, just because some people were irresponsible. At the moment, we're supposed to be policing ourselves, and this is a really bad example of what to do. I love PewDiePie, I love his sense of fun. I've got his same sense of fun. You know, sometimes laws are there to be broken, but not this one, because during his video he committed all the most serious offences against drone use, and he did it in the worst possible way. He put the controller down and then he turned his back on his drone and he went back into the house, and he was flying FPV, first person view, which isn't that great in these circumstances anyway. Definitely don't do it in a city. And he did it from his bedroom, so that he could easily have lost the signal, and he had to run outside even to see where the drone was. So don't do what PewDiePie did. Hope you enjoyed this video. Please check out my other videos here. I've got PS5 unboxings, Xbox One special treat unboxings, and loads of other great videos. Please check out my videos and subscribe to my channel for more. Here's a final word from PewDiePie. Thanks very much for watching, guys. See you next time. Bye bye.